Hello and welcome to another edition of the ABCs of CPD and CFD. My name is Napoleon Bell and I'm the Executive Director with the City of Columbus Community Relations Commission, bringing you another edition to why police officers and firefighters do what they do. But as always, you know, in each show we do something a little bit different, highlighting another office within the City of Columbus that has an impact on the community, but also works in collaboration with the community and also with our police and firefighters out there in the field. So I'd like to get the show started. And first, start off from the City Attorney's Office. We have two individuals here from the City Attorney's Office. First of all, we have Attorney Jody Spurlock. I'd like to welcome you to the program.
Thank you.
And also next to her, we have from the City Attorney's Office, Attorney Jiza Page. I'd like to welcome you to the program.
Thank you.
And then our forever co-host, part of our dynamic duo, Lieutenant Dave.
The other one didn't come.
Lieutenant Dave Sawyer.
Yeah, thank you for having me again.
All right, glad to have you on the program as always. So first of all, let me just turn to Attorney Spurlock in regards to your office has started a new zone initiative, is my understanding, and this to better communicate with the community. So tell us a little bit about that and what that is designed to do and what you've been doing so far.
Sure. The city attorney created the zone initiative about 6 years ago. And basically what that is he has assigned an attorney from his office to each of the 5 police zones. We have 4 different zone attorneys, and one of the zone attorneys, myself, is assigned to 2 of the 5 police zones. And as a zone attorney, what we do is we're basically a community liaison person between the communities and our office. We work closely with Columbus Police, with code enforcement. We go out to community meetings. We try to get around to police roll call so that we can kind of keep our ear to the ground to find out what's going on in the community and what it is our office can do to help solve problems in the community.
Wow. So, I mean, when did this initiative start? It sounds, very new.
I think it started around 2006.
Okay.
And so we've been out there for a while now.
Wow. Okay. So in essence, then, if I'm in one of these zones, then I've got my own, I'll say my personal attorney out there to help me through some things.
And that's kind of true. I mean, there are some limits on what we can do, but, if there are a number of problems in the community that you think our office might be able to help with, then your zone attorney would be the person to contact. Okay,
so speaking of contact, how do we know who our zone attorney is? Is this on the web for one thing? Is there a number that they can call to say, hey, I live at such and such, who's my zone attorney?
Yes, it's all on the city attorney's website, and that website is
columbuscityattorney.org.
columbuscityattorney.org. And is there a phone number that they can also call for general information?
Yes. I mean, I know my number, and Jiza probably knows hers, but I think if you go to the city attorney's website, you'll get the phone number for your zone attorney, the zone attorney in your area, and it will tell what zone each of us are assigned to, and the precincts that cover those zones.
Okay.
So if you go to the city attorney's website and just go to, I think it says Zone Initiative, go to Zone Initiative, and all of the information is there on the website.
Excellent. Well, I'm sure they could also probably call 311 too.
And they could probably also call 311.
Get that information.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Well, that sounds like a great thing to be happening. But it's funny that it's been going on for that long because I didn't know about it, and so I'm sure some of the community people don't know about it. So we're hopeful that by this being broadcast, that they learn more about the Zone Initiative and then how the City Attorney's Office can help community people directly, out there in the field.
Exactly. I hope so too.
Great. Well, speaking of those issues in regards to the City Attorney's Office and issues you deal with, we have Jiza Page here, dealing with nuisance abatements. This is a huge thing that I think many people are dealing with as far as property and landlords, that aren't doing the right thing and are letting their properties go into disrepair. Now, before we get started, there was a motel I know there's an ongoing investigation on that, but recently I think Judge Hale had said to close it down until I think till the case is heard. But we have some pictures that where the community came together and got out there and has been really working on this issue out there and actually started picketing. So I'm wondering, hopefully we got those pictures queued up to be able to take a look at that. Matter of fact, there's the pictures there that where actually community members were getting out into the right there out in front of the Motel 1, picketing about the issues that are going on there at the Motel 1. And what was great about this, and if we go to some of the other pictures, is that when the community gets involved in a situation, Motel 1's been there for a long time, been a problem for a long time, but when the community gets involved and they continue to work on the issue year after year and what have you to try to address this issue, which is they feel as though this is a nuisance to the neighborhood and brings problems to the neighborhood, they get out there and get involved in that issue out there. So that makes a difference. And so there's collaboration between City Attorney's Office, I know the State Fire Marshal was involved, Columbus Police were involved, Columbus Fire were involved to make that happen because they were very upset. So I applaud the community in really sticking with this because that's what I think the community needs to do. And not only in this area, but in so many different areas to really come together and collaborate with all the city entities, especially since you guys are really out there now a lot, to make a difference in our community for a positive change. So with nuisance abatements, how does someone, I've got a problem house next to me, or I've got a problem motel or whatever that business is next to me, bringing in all kinds of drugs or whatever that might be that's creating a nuisance for the community. How does someone go about getting your office involved and getting the same results as we're seeing that is happening with the motel and others?
I would say the first step that they should take is call either 311 or the non-emergency police line just so they can start making the proper complaints and getting the proper agencies with CPD, whether it's narcotics or vice, involved and already start investigating. Jody and I go to a lot of community meetings. When we're there, we want to hear what is the community's concern. So if we are invited to a meeting, let us know what are the things that's going on. If you have addresses, if you have a particular location in mind, just give us some of the ideas of what's going on, if it's drugs, prostitution, and we can also speak with the vice sergeant, the intact sergeant, and let them know that this is a place that you should probably start investigating. And if you have anything, then they can come back to us and we can see if it's sufficient evidence to then file for a nuisance abatement.
Okay, so when you talk about sufficient evidence and to do a nuisance abatement, is that something that it's just one call to the police and, well, there's been a couple calls here to the police, or should, the people look at, we've called about this place 300 times and nothing's ever done, but it's all been about drugs or prostitution or whatever it might be that they're doing at that, or shootings, this, that, and the other. So, first of all, are you saying that the community needs to be involved and make those phone calls about the property?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, so they've got to do that. So don't give up.
Right.
You got to make the calls first of all, so that you have enough evidence to look at is this a potential nuisance abatement?
Yes. And one thing that we do include with our abatements is the amount of runs that CPD has to do. Those are typically based out of calls. So if people are calling saying it's loud noise, a suspicious person, they just heard shots fired, those are things that we were able to use as evidence to show that this is a nuisance property. This property isn't welcome in this particular community.
Wow. So, there's a couple bars and what have you that seem to always either have fights, shootings, everything else going, drugs in the parking lot, whatever it might be. How much, in general, how much does it take for this to be considered a nuisance abatement? Because, in some places, I'm sure there's shootings at least once a month, potentially, and then if not shootings, there's fights. Is that enough? So are we looking at a couple months span, or is this something that we have to say, over the past 6 months or over the past year, this is what's tallied up over this with this particular property to look at doing a nuisance abatement?
I may defer to my senior attorney for more about this, but I think that it just kind of depends on the location and the particular maybe activity that's going on. I did an abatement on a property that's on the east side off of Hamilton Road. It's been closed since February. They CPD, Vice particularly, had a few drug buys, I think maybe around 4 or 5, that were done over a period of a few months. So it wasn't an investigation that went on for a year. I think it may just depend on what type of activity is going on, how long CPD wants to investigate, if there's something further that they want to look into before they give it to us. As far as what evidence is sufficient, again, that depends. Shootings aren't nuisance activities. If it's a bar, it would be either illegal liquor activity or selling drugs. So the shootings kind of, I guess, add more meat to our case to show that because of the other activity that's going on, it's causing the shootings and is a nuisance in the entire community. I hope that answers it well.
Oh, yeah, no, I mean, that's good. Well, to that timing, because so often community and residents would feel as though, you know, I've called and called and called. Nothing ever happens. And it sounds like, you know, to get something done, they got to continue to call and not get disenfranchised or don't feel empowered. But from all those calls, can it take, it sounds like as short as 3 to 4 months, and also much longer. So what's the average time to have a successful nuisance abatement do you see from the ones that you guys have been involved in?
I don't think it's so much the length of time, it's the amount of evidence you can collect in a certain amount of time. Okay. Just to clarify a little bit, what Jiza has said is there's basically two types of nuisances. There are statutory nuisances, which by law are nuisances. Those are pretty easy. Those are the things that she talked about, like drug dealing and violations of the liquor laws, prostitution. Those are statutory nuisances. And then there are common law nuisances. And these are nuisances that are not defined by law to be nuisances. And they all contribute to most of our nuisance abatement cases. And it's really, I think it's really the kind of evidence we can collect. And it doesn't matter the time. I mean, it's much easier, I think, for us to take a statutory nuisance into court because the law says what the judge should do if these certain activities take place. On the other hand, with the common law nuisances, it's not that clearly defined. So, you know, I don't think it's the length of time so much as it is, you know, the amount of time Columbus Police or whatever the investigating unit can dedicate to the investigation. But, I mean, it just depends on the type of activity. I mean, if they're dealing drugs, we could shut it down pretty quickly. I just did one at the Knotty Pine Bar on Hudson recently, and I think that investigation went on for probably maybe a couple of months. Wow. But they were, well, we alleged they were dealing drugs out of there. Okay.
So one thing before we got some more questions, but we want to also give the viewing audience a chance to give us a call, and they can do that at 645-6557. That's 645-6557. They can give us a call for any questions they might have of any of our panelists here. But also, we are also on Facebook, so you can friend me at Nat Bell, N-A-P-B-E-L-L, Nat Bell, and ask those questions on Facebook also, and we'll get those questions asked by our guests. And we're streaming live, so we're all over the world. So somebody could call in from anywhere.
I had a question.
So you had a question.
So the nuisance abatement, can it be filed against a rental property or a multifamily dwelling?
Yes, and we do.
It's not only just businesses; it's with them too.
Yeah, we do crack houses quite often. And usually those are rental properties. But a multifamily dwelling, you know, if we have the evidence to do it on certain units, we can do it on certain units too.
Now, to that point, what about the repeat offender? You know, often another big complaint from community is that we've got an apartment complex, and it might be a smaller one, maybe a couple, 4 families, whatever it might be, but they are known for housing those persons selling drugs. And narcotics has been out there and done the raids and this, that, and the other. Could it come to a point where there's a nuisance abatement of the entire complex, brought against the entire complex, or do you do it by apartment? Which one of those can? Well,
if it's an apartment complex, I mean, you have to tie the nuisance into you know, a particular location. When you talk about repeat offenders, what the law says is that if the owner has been put on knowledge, because what we get when we do these nuisance abatement actions are injunctions on the property. And the injunction says that the property owner is enjoined from allowing the nuisance to exist at that property and elsewhere. And so and that puts the owner on notice. And what the law says is if the owner has notice and the nuisance persists, that we can go to the court and ask for a contempt of court and ask for a 1-year board up of the property.
Oh, okay. So I just want to make sure I'm hearing you correct, is that let's say the property has 10 units,
right,
and 3 of them are problems.
Right.
Okay, so you deal with those 3, but then they reoffend. The property owner reoffends, allows it to reoffend. Can we then say that since any properties that he's also dealing with, could you shut down all 10?
That's what our injunctions say. However, the courts say that injunctions have to be narrowly tailored.
Okay. Okay.
So, what we also put in our injunctions is that, if we're notified or Columbus Police finds that there's a nuisance being maintained in your property, we'll give you a 72-hour notice to get rid of the tenants, because what the landlord-tenant law says is that a landlord has a duty to evict if he has reasonable suspicion that drug activity is going on. And it also says that a search warrant being executed at a particular property is prima facie evidence that it's been going on. So if there's been a search warrant executed, theoretically, a landlord can take that to eviction court and say, look, Judge, this is why I'm evicting my tenants, is because this search warrant for drug activity has been going on.
But if that owner says, I don't care, I'm getting my $575 a month, and continues to allow them in there because he wants to get his check.
Then he risks
or $575 a week.
Yeah.
And then he risks a 1-year board up of his property.
Okay. Well, because that's really good to know, because I know that a lot of residents out there are troubled by this, and they're saying that I can't do anything about it. And then there's been those narcotics has gone there and done the raids and this, that, and the other, but yet there's still the same problem with that property. And so, like you're saying, if the property owner doesn't get them out of there, then we should we're advising the surrounding residents to get a hold of you guys out there.
Assuming there's been a nuisance abatement action done on the property. Because just because narcotics executes a search warrant doesn't mean our office has gotten involved.
Okay.
Narcotics has to get us involved so that we can get an injunction on the property, and then all of those other things would apply.
Okay.
But Director, I think that's even a challenge, it sounds like to me. So just imagine if I was a drug dealer living in one of those motels in the city or an apartment, and I'm evicted, but my buddy moves in. Does that start it all over again?
No.
So, because he's a totally different person.
The injunction is permanent on the property for that person, any successors in interest and title, any subsequent
activity.
Yeah. And I also put in my injunctions that, the owner, because what the owners a lot of times don't do are record checks, background checks.
Right. That's
because when they tell me who their tenant is, I'll just do a, preliminary background check, and I'll see that the guy has been charged with some sort of drug offense in the past. So I put that in my injunctions that you are going to do background checks on your tenants.
Okay.
Now, I mean, that doesn't catch everything, but, it might catch something.
Right.
So, and you said there were 6 zones?
There are 5 police zones.
I mean, as far as the ones for the zone initiative, so you go
we
by
have the
police
same,
zone?
Yeah,
Okay.
we go by police zones.
And so one city attorney for each one? So we probably need 15 more city attorneys then to really saturate the area.
Yeah, well.
Because there's some areas that I think are, a lot busier than other sides of town, in which could require some more assistance. But, we appreciate the job that you're doing out there, because, it does make a difference. And when I think that when we collaborate, with all the different city departments, but also especially with the community on making these things happen. I mean, the community is the cog that really makes this turn.
Yeah, they're the driving force, and I'm glad you raised that point. But they really drive a lot of the nuisance abatement actions. It's because of their calls about drug houses that gets narcotics involved. It's because of their complaints about problem liquor establishments or motels that, gets other people involved. So they're the driving force behind a lot of these things. Wow.
Okay. Definitely. Well, Jiza, have we missed anything with the nuisance abatements? I mean, let me ask you this. With doing nuisance abatements, what's been, I think, looking back over the time that you've been working on these things, what do you see as your biggest success or successful nuisance abatement that, maybe you thought, wow, there's no way this is going to happen, but maybe there was one that really sticks out in your mind? Can you think of anything?
Not particularly. I think I've done maybe 4 or 5 so far. And I mean, I actually think all of them are successes because all of them have activity that is harmful to the neighborhood that they're located in. I've done a few liquor establishments, also a few crack houses, and I think that anytime that we're able to either get them boarded up for an amount of time and get those tenants out, if it's a tenant who's doing the activity, that is a success.
Okay, great. Well, appreciate everything that you guys are doing. Now, I got to go back to Lieutenant Sawyer because, as always, and, with every program that we do, we ask questions that have come in through the internet and on Facebook and what have you. So I've got to ask this question. I think we've asked this one before, but it still came in. And this is from Joy. She states, why do fire engines respond to medical emergencies?
That's a great question. That program started probably about 1995. We went to a dual system, an ACLS system. We used to have just a BLS system where just the medic was a basic EMT that responded, treated mostly like first aid injuries, and then a second unit would come in, which was called an ALS unit. A medic unit would come in for the major medical emergencies. Well, we developed a system to go to the dual system, as I'm speaking of, the engine and the medic to come to runs, because we were able to respond to throughout the city in less than 5 minutes. So what that meant is every firehouse now has an engine that is an ALS and a medic unit that is ALS. And I thank the city for allowing us to do that because we are able to, for heart attacks and strokes and things like that, we are able to treat that individual in a very initial time and get them to the hospital and transport it. So that's what that happens, why that happens. And also because of the resources. During a major medical emergencies, we're going to need a lot more crew members to handle that life and death situation. So that's why that happens.
Okay.
So you can imagine if the medic was, there are a lot of our medics that are very busy. Almost every firehouse now, every medic unit is having 20 runs a day or more, which means there's someplace out, and in that geographical area, you may call for a heart attack right around the corner. Well, now the fire truck can get to you just as, with the same amount of treatment that a medic unit can.
Well, so does a firefighter, or does like in the case of a fire, and a fire, with the fire, does the medic also go out to fire?
Oh yeah. Oh
so
yeah. Everybody goes
on
to
all
the fire.
calls. There's always a truck and a medic.
On all emergency runs, there are all medical emergency runs. There is always a engine and a medic. On fire runs, yes, usually everyone goes. And then there's different other type of runs that we have, service runs or what we call personal assist runs or something that just the engine or the ladder may go.
Okay.
Okay, so the medic doesn't go on every run.
So on the personal assist runs, is that something that they go lights and siren with, or is that just...
Yes, that is a lights and siren run.
Okay. So pretty much everyone, anytime you see one come out and they're going on a run, they're lights and siren. No? Okay.
On a service run, we don't always respond on lights and siren.
Okay.
It's during an emergency.
Okay.
Only during an emergency.
Okay. Well, one other question that came in from Tom. It says, why do I have to dial 911? If I call the fire station direct, wouldn't it save time?
No, it wouldn't. Okay.
Tom, you're not sure what's going on there.
No, it wasn't. Okay. It goes into a system, a database system and then it's easier to dispatch. During the major medical calls or major emergency calls, it pops up on the database, and it's almost triage calls because we have like a service run that may be in the same neighborhood versus that major emergency. So calling 911 will get you a quicker response, plus they can trace the call. You call the fire station, if you hang up, okay, we lose the call and we don't know where you're at.
Ah, okay. One question that I've got, I think it's with these new cell phones.
Plus, we're not going to give you all the telephone numbers to all the fire stations.
Right. Well, there's a question that I have in regards to the new phones. Okay. And the new phones, the new smartphones, they have those 911 locators. Have you had many runs involving the use of the 911 locators?
I suggest we get our alarm officer in here to answer that question because I don't know that answer right now. Okay. But I'm willing to bet now, yes, that everybody has a cell phone. They are calling, picking up that phone and calling 911. It's easier. It's accessible. Okay. Let me ask you, if you're in your home, okay, do you have your cell phone with you all the time?
No.
Okay, so you put it in a charger?
Right.
That's kind of unusual because usually people carry their phone with them everywhere they're going, even in their own single-family home. And instead of going to the phone that is, used to be the OB line, okay, Ohio Bell line, you just pick up your cell phone and start dialing. So
Well,
that's why we're getting those calls.
See, because my house is in a seemed like a dead zone.
You're in the Richmond area.
So yeah, no, it's somewhere in a dead zone area where it picks up okay, but I always have maintained a landline phone because, and tell me if I'm right, they say the landline phone you want it in case the power goes out, but I've just always been told to keep a landline phone at the home in case power goes out. But with a cell phone, it doesn't matter if power goes out. But if your battery dies, I guess on your cell phone, that could be an issue.
Right.
But I've always maintained a landline phone.
I would imagine, and I would imagine even you, especially ladies, sleeping in bed at night. Okay, you might have your cell phone right next to you, because it's accessible instead of getting up and going over to get a phone, and that's security. And all I got to do is pick this phone right up now and call 911.
Well, I don't know. I like to put the cell phone. I go home, I try to get rid of that.
That's because we work so hard.
Right.
This thing off,
both phones, as a matter of fact, I got to put in the chargers and be done with them.
Can I ask her about the zone initiative?
Yes. Please.
Okay, the zone initiative, does that work for fire also?
Yeah,
okay.
absolutely.
So we have battalions, but it's 7 battalions, but it's basically the same geographical areas. Because I know I've worked with you in some of those block watches and civic association meetings.
Right, and that was the reason, is because I was the zone attorney for that area.
And I appreciate you being there. So you're the attorney for the community and for public safety.
That's right.
That's great.
Right.
That's good.
Right.
So, then what are do both of you have respective zones then?
We do.
So what are your zones and what geographic area does those cover?
I have zone 2, and it's everything south of Freebus. I would say east, starting, my point is like around James Road is an easy way for me to figure out, and everything pretty much east of that. And I go as far east as like Wagner Road.
Oh, okay. You go way out past almost on the other side of Reynoldsburg in a sense. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, James Road, that's a busy area. Old 9 precinct area.
I'm sorry, Director, I got one more question.
What area is yours?
I have the entire west side of Columbus, the near east side, Old Oaks.
Okay.
Yeah, that's about it.
So everybody in that area, what we want them to do is call you guys and say, just blow up those phones. So make sure you know the area. So we've got the near east side, and we've got the far east side right here to help out with the issues.
And the west side.
And the west side. So the west side and east side. So do we know who does the other who does the other sides of town?
Go ahead.
Zone 1 is Bill Sperlaza, and that's pretty much far north, if we would consider that. And then kind of around campus area and Linden area is Steve Dunbar, which is zone 4.
Okay. And Lieutenant, you said you had another question?
The nuisance abatement, does that work for vacant and abandoned properties?
Yeah.
Oh, it does. Okay. So there's a whole other issue. You guys have a lot on your hands.
Well, yeah, we do. I mean, the other thing that we do is we handle the lawsuits for code enforcement for the vacant and abandoned housing.
Okay. So,
I'll open up another subject.
Well, I'm just amazed. I mean, there's so much then. I mean, I don't know how 5 people can do all that. I mean, that seems like a lot of paper. It seems like to me. And we talk about the timing of the time frame that these can take. 3 months, 5 months, depending on how much investigation goes on with it and how much information that they can get. So, and to compile all that. So you have a lot of interns and what have you, I'm sure, in the office or somebody to help out get that stuff done. But we do appreciate that, because without that, this I think gives power to the community out there to be able to make those changes. Out there to see something actually happening, because police can go out there, fire can go out there and do their thing, but the long-term effects is ultimately what the community is looking for. And that's part of the long-term effect, to close the place down, to get those people out of there. Not just, we can arrest them all day long, but if we can't really deal with the root of the problem, which is the property owners who are allowing this to continue to happen, then, it will perpetuate itself. It'll keep doing it. So really we appreciate what you're doing out there. So one last time, the website to go to would be?
ColumbusCityAttorney.org.
ColumbusCityAttorney.org. I should pull that up real quick to see if I could get that on there. And okay, so ColumbusCity.org. We'll make sure that our viewing audience make sure they get on there, give you a call, make the complaint or what have you. Call 311, and they could probably speak with the Pride liaison also to maybe get a hold of you too.
Yeah.
So if you have a neighborhood Pride office in your area, you can get that, contact you through there also.
That's right.
Great. Well, so happy that you're here to talk about the zone initiative and the nuisance abatements, everything that's going on there. The city attorney is out there, boots on the ground, making things happen. So I appreciate you being out here. And as always, Lieutenant Sawyer, appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
As always, answering our questions out there from the community.
Thank you for having me.
All right. And to our viewing audience, we've got some great things, or a great program coming up. Our second segment, we're going to be talking with police and some issues that are going on the west side, some success stories that are going on the west side. But then also we're going to be talking about, our diverse communities that we have around Central Ohio and how we communicate as the city communicates with them, but also how everyone communicates together. So don't go away. We've got a great second segment coming up after these words.